Hello and welcome to another My NT&D marriage video. We have been struggling a lot lately. We're going through some really hard things. To begin with, we've got one son that I'm trying to employ and help him look for jobs and help him work through his nerves and his anxiety. And I tried to talk to hubby about that. Well, if I take it back a step, he keeps trying to talk to our son about it, but he talks in such a negative, awful way that our son has stopped talking to him about this at all. Sort of saying things along the lines of he's not achieving anything, he's a failure, he's, negative, yucky stuff that nobody wants to hear. And because our son won't talk to him, he now keeps bringing it up with me so that I will be the mediator, I guess. So I tell him recently that I have decided to sign our son up to an employment agency. And he dives straight into, he's probably not reading his emails and he's leaving his phone messages unanswered and da-da-da-da. And he doesn't know any of this. He's never asked him. They don't talk. It's just supposition. But it's negative supposition, and it just makes me just stop talking, On top of that, we've got another boy whose mental well-being is just really precarious right now, and that's a lot to handle. And I have been getting him all manner of help, as much help as I can possibly work around. All manner of specialists and yada yada. And we come out of one of the doctor's visits and we get in the car and hubby says, "Oh, you kept trying to sound like you knew stuff about psychology." And I was like, okay. It's not a compliment, it's not a positive thing to say, it's not a nice thing to say to somebody who's stressing. And so again I go quiet, and I'm kind of hitting this wall where I'm feeling like I can't rely on him for support. I can't lean on him. He's not my rock. He's not my safe place to fall. He's really antagonistic, and I know that he's struggling with these things himself and trying to cope in his own way and probably not doing very well. But that's the saddest part, is that I can't help him either. Like, we're just sort of two boys in an ocean, miles apart, dealing with the same, tsunami. There's just no togetherness, no support, and it feels really, really, just hard and empty. On top of that, we're having all these micro battles. We've always had micro battles. I like the aircon one way, he likes it a different way. Doors, windows, heaters, the whole shebang. And we've recently got some new puppies in order to try and cheer up our boys. And in that case, it is working. We're all loving these new puppies. They're very enjoyable. Except the battles that I'm now having with hubby, who just breaks the rules. We don't want them, by we, I mean me, and the boys back me. We don't want them on carpeted areas because they're not toilet trained yet. And we'll just go off and do something and come back and they're in a carpeted room and he's let them in there. It just drives me nuts. It's like so close to just having a meltdown and screaming at him, just what the hell? And he'll say things like, "Oh, I'm keeping an eye on them." And I'm like, you can't be, you're playing a video game. There's no chance you're looking after two puppies and watching this video game. Like, you're not cross-eyed, you don't have 50 eyes on the back of your head. It's just silly. And of course they keep having accidents on his watch because he's not looking after them and letting in places they shouldn't go. So it's kind of good on one hand and then just really added to the stress on the other hand. But just these micro battles. Oh, and I'm so short fused right now, so impatient, so frustrated that I'm finding it really hard to speak nicely to him. And I hear myself and I think, oh, I don't want to be that person. But I'm so rattled. So the other day, for example, I'm cooking dinner. I've made the dinner with leftover food because another micro battle that we have is that he buys food that he isn't going to use. So he'll need an avocado for a recipe and go and buy 3 because they're on special. And then I've got to find out what to do with the other 2, you know, and just get creative and make stuff up. Anyway, so I cooked this dinner with this leftover vegetables. And he eats the dinner and he goes, I didn't like tonight's dinner. And I just go, I didn't like you. I was like a 5-year-old, you know. And he just stops talking. Another thing happens and he says, blah, 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 that's ridiculous. And I go, you're ridiculous. I just feel like, stop, please, with the negativities. I cannot do this right now. I can't do your whatever that is. So, yeah, just really hard struggles right now, and me trying to be a semblance of nice and kind and caring, and just finding myself unable to. Okay, he'll say something and I'll snap, and then I'll think, ooh, and then I'll look around and the boys have heard me and I'm like, oops. And they don't get the context, which is so frustrating. I mean, another thing, for example, of the context. Our youngest boy started school when he was 4. It's quite a young age to start school. But the teachers felt that he was okay. He was clever enough and mature enough. And all throughout our history, hubby keeps telling people that that was a mistake. And since I'm the one who was sort of, pushing that, or not pushing it, but just going with that and saying, yeah, okay, let's do this, it's sort of like saying that I'm the one who's at fault for it. And he's been saying this for a long time, and he tells it to everybody and anyone who will listen. So we came out of the doctor's visit, the one whom I'm supposedly, you know, trying to act like I'm an expert at psychology. And he says to that doctor, blah, 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 son got put in school at 4, therefore it's all the dramas that are happening now. And the doctor says, yeah, that's not it. And then a couple of weeks later we see some other doctor, and he says the same damn thing. And I just actually interrupted for the first time. I just interrupted him as he was talking to this specialist, and I said, look, sorry to interrupt, but I don't want to hear this again. And that specialist looked at me like, well, that's really rude. You know, what kind of wife are you? I'm like, oh man. I just can't get him to leave it alone, you know. It's been 50 billion years. That isn't the cause. If anything, we're the cause. This crazy ass relationship where we have all these micro battles. Which leads me on to something else. He shared with me this video made by this woman. And I don't know what kind of expert she is. I hazard a guess that she's not an expert, and she just made this video for attention. That's my feeling on it. And the video says that a mum's meant to give unconditional love and be this soft place to fall and comfort and nurture her children. And the dad is meant to have conditional love and critique his children and raise them with this belief that you're failing and you have to try harder and you're not doing good enough and blah, 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 blah. You know, criticize, negative, and this together makes strong men. So for whatever reason, he shared me that video and said, looks like our children are going to turn out all right. You couldn't make this stuff up. And I wrote back and said, seems to me she's just spreading toxic masculinity. And then we had a conversation about it a little while ago. And I said, we're living the exact life that woman says is ideal. And we are having a crap time. We've got one son who's too anxious to look for work, another son whose mental well-being is failing, me who's, I feel like I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown. I feel so high-strung and stressed out. And here's this guy saying we're, living the ideal life and we're all going to be fine. And I'm like, we're kind of not fine. Crazy. So anyway, that's what's been going on for me, us, right now. It's kind of making videos a little bit tricky because I've got so much to navigate. You can't imagine. But just putting it out there, can you relate? Feel free to leave a comment. And as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video.